those teams where second to fourth is kind of a bit up in the air, those are the third place teams who may miss out.
It's not about the players, it's about how much are they going to take this opportunity.
Will these teams who you would expect or you would like to think will go through with 9 points, with like easier competition, will these teams use that as momentum to then get into knockouts and really start taking by storm, or will it mean they're kind of less prepared for those tougher games in the knockouts? Because you can argue either way very, very easily. Welcome to a TFF special. What do we call it? TFF debates? Maybe, we're not sure. But yeah,
debate with me and you, man. So yeah.
Yeah. So welcome to a special episode of TFF Euro preview. Shout out to us really, because this is the original two. So me and Jovan started off this obviously, and now we're a team of 8, which is kind of crazy. But it's nice to get on just the two of us, take it back to the old days. I still remember the Skype Zoom recordings we did. Remember in the summer before we did anything.
a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, it's a throwback, man. But I'm waiting for you to ask me about the scarf,
I already know that scarf, Israel, England.
Yeah, but do you know why I'm wearing it? There's a reason behind it. Obviously, I'm Jewish and there's Israel, but there's more. There's more to it. You didn't know.
No clue.
I'm gonna show you quick times. So I don't know if you can see the date on it. September 8th, 2007. Do you know why this is significant? Do you know what 2007 was? You don't. I will tell you. Wembley was built. This was the first ever Euro qualifiers at Wembley that I went to. So I guess that's quite relevant.
Why would they put Israel in there for that game?
Don't know. But great game. I remember 3-0.
Euro 2020 in 2021 in 12 different cities across Europe. If you think that Azerbaijan is in Europe, let's say, but it's going to be a crazy tournament. It's going to be an interesting tournament, and a lot of people, I've heard a lot of things. Criticism in terms of why it's not in all one venue. A lot of, I think, British people or English people rather would have liked it to be only at Wembley or in England rather. But I think
we should be grateful.
The only thing is the travel. I mean, travel, especially right now, is not the best thing. So, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how a Euro can work spread over a whole continent.
Yeah, it's just terrible timing because they wanted to do something beautiful, to commemorate the anniversary of the Euros, get it played all across Europe, embrace the beauty that is, Europe. It's a very kind of unique continent, I think, the way so many countries are there. But yeah, I mean, just couldn't be worse timing with a global pandemic. But obviously, they didn't really think that was the case when they planned this tournament out. But it has finally come. Let's talk about a few before we get into the groups. Let's talk about a few differences, I guess, because obviously you've now got 6 groups, and you've got 4 of the 6 third place teams advancing. So, I mean, what's your opinion on that? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that's, or would you rather the more traditional format of kind of 2 teams from each group go through?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think it's a fair question. I think also, in my opinion, what is the Euros about? The Euros about bringing together the best teams in Europe and having them play in a tournament. And this is a trend that's not only happening with UEFA, it's with the World Cup now with 48 teams. I think there's too many teams in the Euros. I think it should be back to 16 teams, how it was, I think, in 2012. I remember that tournament in Poland and Ukraine. It was last year. It was 16 teams. Last Euro in France was 2016. They made this 2014 where the third place were going through. In the end of the day, I mean, what it does is if you're a team like Finland or North Macedonia or Scotland or Hungary, probably not even actually Hungary, but you have a chance to be that third place team. So it keeps the thing alive. I'm just looking at it in terms of what is the point of a tournament where half the teams in Europe and are going to a tournament, and if you finish third place, which means potentially you could draw 3 games or draw 2 games and lose 1, not even have a really good performances or results and still go to the next round. So I'm not a massive fan of it, but there is arguments for the opposite, right?
For me, I love a group stage because you can get those upsets. Do you know what I mean? And I think I like the fact. I mean, yeah, 32 would be way too stretched. I think 24. I think 24 is the sweet spot because, as we said, like, 4 of the 6 third place teams still get to go through, and I think what that means is, even though obviously you do have some of those teams who maybe won't go far, maybe you're wondering why they're even there, it just adds a bit of spice, a bit of competition where, even if 2 teams are battling for third, that may be an important third place because that could, sneak you into a round of 16.
Let's.
Yeah.
I mean, what else? What else are we missing? I mean, for the person that, let's say, doesn't know what the Euros are or doesn't know when, I think that we gotta basically say who, what, when, where. So obviously,
Yeah.
if you don't have questions, may as well just leave the channel because we probably don't have anyone like that. But it does start on the 11th of this month of June, and does run until the 11th of July. So it's a nice month of football.
Well, it's going to be tomorrow when this episode drops, so it'll be literally tomorrow that the Euros are starting. And yeah, so as Jovan said, it's going to be over technically 30 days, not 28. It is 4 weeks, but it's technically 30 days. Usually it's at one or sometimes shared, like 2 countries. Usually it's in 1 or 2 countries, but this year, unfortunately, COVID's made it difficult, but the plan was to have it spread all over Europe, which is the case. A bit controversial because then you've got a lot of teams who are arguably having some, home games, which may give them an advantage depending on obviously the fan turnout there. But you'd expect a bit less neutral than what you may see at a normal tournament, let's say. But no, it's going to be very exciting, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go group by group. We're going to break down the teams in the group, and I think we're going to answer 2 main questions for every team, really. What is their kind of key questions to their success? What really questions do we need to see the answer to for them to succeed? And also, what might be their kind of, I don't want to say a KPI, like a key performance indicator, but what would be considered a successful tournament for each team? Because obviously that's going to vary. So, yeah, I think, should we get straight into it? You ready?
Yeah, for sure.
Right, so Group A, and I think a good place to start is, of course, Italy. Won all 10 of their qualifiers. So, they're coming into the tournament strong. Obviously, they've got a lot of questions to answer to. Obviously, not qualifying for the World Cup in 2018. Very surprising. Runners-up of this tournament in 2012. But obviously, looking to get back to kind of winning ways. As I said, they had a great kind of qualifying. So, what do you think about Italy going into this tournament? Obviously, the favourites when you look at the other countries there.
Yeah, well, for this group, you said it exactly. They're favourites for the Group A, but I think a lot of people maybe see Italy as a team that flies under the radar, especially ever since they missed out on the World Cup. That's gone now. That's not even a topic anymore because I think they haven't lost a game since that duel with Sweden in 20. Or, I think they haven't lost a game basically since 2018 is what I read. So the fact that they're that good, obviously they're on a massive winning streak. You got to look at the team, though. They don't have any, let's say, world-class players like especially Belgium or France. However, when you look at it, I mean, sometimes you need those teams that, fly on the radar. And let's be honest, they're one of the favorites to be successful. But I think there's a fine line between a favorite to potentially go on and make a good run in the tournament and then to win it. You would think potentially of France, Belgium, England.
Well, they're definitely an interesting one because you kind of touched on it there by, when you were saying they're favourites to go far. But it's interesting because we did some TikTok content today. Make sure you head to our TikTok page, the Footy Forum. We're also doing some TikToks just breaking down the Euros very, very broadly. So in the TikTok, I said how, for me, a dark horse are Italy. Mm-hmm. Now, that can be a bit controversial because they're one of the strong teams. But for me, I don't think they're a favourite to win. They're a favourite to go far, to get through the group stages. But I don't think anyone looks at Italy and says they're going to win. I think you can name, at least a hand of teams that are probably favourites ahead of them. So that's why I had them as a dark horse.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a dark horse to go far, like a team like Turkey, who we'll come to very shortly, and a dark horse to win the tournament. So for me, that's Italy. I'm just going to give you a few reasons why, and then you can kind of respond. For me, they've got pre-existing relationships. So you look at Chiellini and Bonucci at the back, been together at Juventus since 2018. That's going to be crucial. Florenzi and Verratti, who are PSG, obviously. And I think also something on their side, especially in the group stages, not that's going to help them forward, but all 3 games are in Rome. So that's obviously going to play into their hands a bit. Not that I have any doubts that I think they could, do well against these teams anywhere. But, you're looking at them to kind of come out of that group, for me, 9 points, and look really strong coming out of the group and then try and ride that momentum. And that was part of my reasoning for them being a dark horse. And for me, I think Donnarumma is going to be a standout player this tournament. A lot of negative publicity with everything that happened with Milan. And I think he's got a point to prove. And whilst he's still young, I think he could be one of the best goalkeepers we have in the world right now. So I think he's got to really stand out. And I think he's going to be a key to them getting far. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone will argue when they say, Italy should top the group. Considering the teams, we're going to talk about it. I mean, let's potentially go now to Turkey, as you mentioned, a team that is a team that, again, no one really thinks too much of. Their quality side, they got quality players. They come out with quality results. Just earlier in March, they beat Netherlands, which is a big, obviously a big storyline. That they have good, the ability to make some good results, and they love these kind of tournaments. They've done it in the past, World Cups, Euros, more so maybe in the early 2000s, 90s, where they really come together as a nation, are proud of their nation, and really could do some damage in terms of getting where a lot of people say no, Wales with some of their players, or Switzerland should get.
Well, let's not forget their manager was the one who got them to the semi-finals in 2002. He's won 2 league titles with Besiktas as well in the Super League. So they do look strong. And again, just a couple things. Obviously, they've got some strong players. They've got Yilmaz, and they've got a solid defence. Obviously, Soyuncu at Leicester, and I think for me, and I'll come back to this as a recurring theme. I think at these major tournaments, sometimes the games can be quite tense, even in the group stage. So I do think defensively is key, because in those tense games, you need to be able to hold yourself defensively. So I think Turkey having a great defensive kind of back line and a few players up front who can cause some problems. I think, when they say dark horses, I think, wow, if they got to like the semi-finals, that would be amazing. But obviously, never say never. We saw what Greece did in 2004 shock the world, or at least the European world. And I'll never forget. I live in the Greek area, so I remember the honking and stuff that night. It was crazy. Also, a lot of Turks in the area, so it'll be interesting to see what they can do. But I think they're definitely one to watch. And especially I look at a group like this, and we'll come to the other 2 teams in a minute, but I think the key is when you think about those 3rd place teams that can go through, the teams where you kind of between like 2nd and 4th, it's all very close and split. I think those are teams who can miss out, because if there's more sharing of the points, the 3rd place team are going to be a bit lower. Whereas like we'll come to Group F where you've got 3 strong teams in Hungary. I think all 3 teams are going to be quite strong, and they're all going to get through quite easily. But those teams where 2nd to 4th is kind of a bit up in the air, those are the 3rd place teams who may miss out. So it's definitely a group to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it really, and we'll get to it after when we kind of give our predictions in terms of groups. And I agree, that's a huge point what you mentioned, that this is probably going to be a group that the top 2 will go through, and the 3rd place might miss out just on how similar the teams are. It really depends, I guess, on how Wales do. And let's go to the Wales right now. I think one thing I'll say with Wales is that look what they did in 2016. They obviously shocked a lot of people, and what they did, it was a nice story. They had a really good team under Chris Coleman, was it? So
Yep.
They did a great job, but I would, I don't think I'm the only one that's thinking that it's a totally different story now. Let's look at, obviously, Bale being the maybe main talking point. Bale was in a different world back then. You can't really even justify that he's on great form right now. Very inconsistent with Tottenham.
I don't know. He had a very good second half of the season, though. He definitely came, he hit form towards the end. Definitely the first half we had a lot of question marks. But for me, and again, coming to this point of and I think we should try and keep going at this, is what's their key to success? I think that for them, it's their star players stepping up. Aaron Ramsey, Gareth Bale. Can they be the superstars that we know they've been kind of through their career? For me, it's that question of can they step up? And I think, in terms of key to success, I think you're looking at, quarterfinals. I think getting through one knockout round will be a very good tournament for Wales. I'm sure they'll tell you they want to go further, but I think if they get to the quarterfinals, I think fans can be very happy. Also, shout out Tyler Roberts, Welsh international. 7 Leeds players, by the way, in the Euros this year, so I'm very excited. But Tyler Roberts just signed a new contract through the 2024, so congratulations to him. But yeah, Wales are going to be an interesting side as well. You ready to move on to Switzerland?
Yeah, let's do it. And one thing I'll say was
go for
not too much because obviously you have a lot of very interesting points to bring up, probably with Switzerland as you've done for the last 3 teams. One thing I'll say, and if it's not already obvious that I'm not a massive fan of this national team, is when granted Xhaka is I'm an Arsenal fan obviously. When Xhaka is one of the most important players to your team, it doesn't look too good for you.
But the thing is, and this is the point of argument, you look through their team and you'd be surprised how strong their starting 11 squad is. People think, oh, you've got Shaqiri and Xhaka like your start. They've got a decent squad, but they're a squad that's never performed to their potential. I think they're correctly rated, but I just think people underrate how good their squad are, but their performances don't justify how good their squad are. They've never made it past the round of 16, so I think that will be their goal, winning a knockout game. So I think that'll be big for them. They're just an unpredictable team, so we'll see. They've obviously got a striker who, for me, had so much potential but never hit it, and that's Breed Mbolo. Mbolo, I think, is a great striker playing in the Bundesliga, but for me, he's never hit that ceiling that I think he had at a young age, at the age of 21. He's getting on now. I think he's maybe 24. He's still young, but you're getting past the point where it's like, is your ceiling still as high as it was when you're 21 or something like that? But yeah, I think I think again, given the circumstances of the group, I think Switzerland are going to struggle to get out of the group. Never mind, win a knockout game. I don't think there'll be too many surprises in this group. Maybe in terms of the points difference, but I do think we're looking at a group where Italy will comfortably finish first. I do think Turkey will be up for it, so I will put them second, and I think Wales will finish third. But I don't know if Wales will get through, as I said. Yeah.
Wow, so you have Switzerland hitting that bottom, eh? Wow, that's very, very interesting.
What about you?
Yeah, so I would put Italy, and I think we should say whether we think the third place is going to go through or not. I would say Italy first. Second, I kind of believe in Turkey a little bit. I think they'll do good. They'll potentially, obviously, it's either hit or miss for them. They either do really good in the tournament or they just fall on their head. So I'm putting them second. I think Switzerland will finish third in this group. I don't see Wales. The whole situation with their manager, obviously Giggs leaving and whatnot, having a inexperienced manager, and also just the overall quality and depth of the squad. I don't see being able to hit that round of 16. So I would put Switzerland third, not making the round of 16, so not finishing in the top 4 of third place teams, and Wales at the bottom. That's my call.
Yeah. Okay. Group B. Let's move on swiftly. Obviously, Belgium, one of the favourites of the tournament. There's no doubts. And a ridiculously stacked team who won all 10 of their qualifiers, scoring 40 goals and conceding 3. That is, for me, that is scary. The only questions are the defence, because midfield and attackers, they are stacked. And whilst their defence is still solid, it doesn't stand out as much in midfield attack. So my key question for Belgium is, can the defence do enough to offset the strength they have going forward? Obviously, Romelu Lukaku, one of the favourites for Golden Boot as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, the good thing is this won't be our only episode of the Euros, which is great. I think we're gonna, as the tournament progresses, we'll go through and have some of these quick videos to kind of update you on the tournament. Maybe stepping a little bit back, when you look at Belgium, I think this is a team that we shouldn't talk about too much at this stage in the tournament, simply because the group they have is unbelievably, I would say, light, especially looking at these teams, they're respectable teams, and I obviously respect Russia, and I'll explain it a little bit more there. However, all three of these teams are not exactly how you would say on the right side of the graph. So I'll get into that. So I think Belgium. I mean, I know there's talking points about them, but these talking points will be meant in the round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals. They will win 3 games. Yeah.
For sure. And I think another thing that will be really, really interesting to see for me is, will these teams who you would expect or you would like to think will go through with 9 points, with like easier competition, will these teams use that as momentum to then get into knockouts and really start taking by storm, or will it mean they're kind of less prepared for those tougher games in the knockouts? Because you can argue either way very, very easily. So, and I don't think it's something you could justify it both ways. I don't think that's a right and wrong. It's just a matter of seeing how that plays out. Because we'll come to the group of death at the end, but in those games where teams are probably kind of sharing and trading a lot of points, having that tougher competition in the group stages, will that set you up better for the knockout? I think is a big question that you can't really answer, but you kind of will be really excited to see how that plays out, I think.
Let's get into the other teams, Denmark, Finland, Russia.
Yep, so for me, my key question with Denmark is, can they take advantage of an arguably weak group? And can they play as a unit? Because again, a solid side, like to me like Switzerland, where I don't think you quite understand, how many players you would either recognise or play at kind of a high level in Europe's top 5 leagues there are for Denmark. So it'll be interesting to see can they play well as a unit, and can they take advantage of this weaker group. But a good team, and I do think they'll do okay this tournament. Big question comes in terms of a successful one for them. Again, quarterfinals. Can they win a knockout game? That would be a big thing for the country. That's where I see Denmark.
Remember, the World Cup in Russia. I think they lost. Was it to Croatia on penalties in the round of 16? It was a really close game. They, penalties is a 50-50. They get through there. Who knows what happens? So, I think you brought up some good points. Look at Russia, for instance, now. I think, Russia, we know we're a good team. They have quality. They showed it at the World Cup. However, for some reason, you look at the prior results of the qualifying, the Nations League. You showed it basically in the qualifying. They played Belgium twice. They were in Belgium's qualification group, and they had no chance both games against Belgium. So I expect the same. I think they will be able to beat Finland. I think Finland, Timo Pukki won't be able to carry them out of this group.
First major tournament. Congratulations to Finland. But I think for Finland, if they get some points on the board, I think that as long as they kind of avoid kind of leaving with 0 points, I think that's a successful tournament for them. Finally, Russia. I'll let you open this up because I know you have a little bit to say about Russia.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think they showed again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, they're a good program. They showed the World Cup. They could do some damage goaling. However, Russia is not the same team as they were then. Now,
Of course.
So
I
really
retired. They've got like some of their key players have retired now. So
we all know Belgium's finishing 4th in this group, dead bottom. But who's going to be 2nd? Who's going to be 3rd? That's the question.
I don't. For me, I don't think there's a question. I think the question is who's going to finish 3rd. I think Denmark will comfortably finish 2nd. I think if a team can maybe, either Finland or Russia, I think you could argue Russia are more likely to do so. But if they can get a point off Denmark and then win the game against Finland, 4 points, you could sneak into the knockout. So I think for Russia, obviously an amazing World Cup they hosted in 2018. I was kind of blown away by how amazing it was, and they did a great job of hosting it. Can they play as the same unit? Because they really played as a unit riding on the fans. Can they do that without the fans that they have behind them? That will be the question. But I think in this group, if you can get a point off Denmark and you can win against that Russia-Finland game, you never know. You could sneak into knockouts. I mean, I think you get spanked in round of 16, but that's still a great achievement to come out the group stages, I think.
Yeah, so 2 things. Obviously, because I have, I want to see them do well, and also I don't want to have the same prediction as you. So Belgium 1st, Russia 2nd, Denmark 3rd, and they will go through. I believe they'll both have 4 points. It will be a draw. So either way, I mean, second, third, who really cares? They'll both go through. Finland, unfortunately, I can't really see them. Obviously, definitely not finishing second or third. So if they get a point, I think it's a success. Hopefully, they enjoy it because they deserve it, and it's nice to see. Let's move on to Group C. This is an interesting one, and where you see Austria, Netherlands, North Macedonia, Ukraine. This group will be played in Amsterdam and Romania.
Bucharest, I think.
Right, Bucharest and Amsterdam. That's actually exactly right. So good call there. So Netherlands has, if Netherlands didn't have any other advantage, they also have home advantage as well. So where do you want to start here?
Let's go Ukraine. Let's start with Ukraine. Obviously, legendary Shevchenko taking charge.
Yeah.
They've got some good midfielders. They've got Zinchenko. They've got Stepanenko. Don't forget Yarmolenko, West Ham. A bit short-handed up top. So my key question for them is how much can the midfield, their strong midfield, carry the load for them, and maybe give them a chance because they don't have a lot going forward, kind of in terms of their strikers. It's another one of those where I think this is going to be a second and fourth tough battle. I do think with the home advantage, Netherlands will come to in a second, are a strong side going in. So I do think the other three countries are going to battle out a bit, and it'll be interesting to see because I think any of those teams, even Macedonia, could potentially finish second or third and go through.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, again, Netherlands. They're a great side. It's going to be nice to see them back in. Obviously, a major tournament. That's for sure. Also, when looking at this group, I think you started with Ukraine, and you basically brought up a lot of the points that I'll say. Very, very competitive team, a team that should not be taken lightly, a team that has that collective soul to them, and they've beaten Spain in the Nations League, the prior Nations League that just happened. They can beat that team. They just in March they drew with France, which means I think. Anyone who really follows international football knows that Ukraine is a good team, and I believe they'll get out of this group really with no issue. I honestly think the top two is very clear. In part of me, obviously, the Balkan in me would love to see North Macedonia fall through in that third place. I think they potentially could actually be competitive and maybe cause an upset against Austria.
If there's a group they wanted to give them a chance, I think this is a group like it. Where you've got teams where, I think one of these other two teams, Ukraine and Austria, will have to have a of a tournament to give North Macedonia a chance. For sure. I don't think they'll be scared at the moment. I think you look at how they've played so far on the international stage, I think they'll be up for it. I really do. And let's go to North Macedonia quickly, because obviously, I can't remember the manager's name. Igor something. I've actually reached out to him to get him on the show. You haven't replied yet, so Igor, check your DM requests, please and thank you. For me, key question, how much can they get out of their star players? Can they step up? Gianni Aliowski from Leeds, obviously. Elmas, also a big player for them. He's still kind of young, early 20s, so how much can they get out of their star players? It's going to be a very interesting question. Of course, what can they get out of Pandev? You won't see him in another major tournament. He's getting very old. But what can they get out of him? Can he maybe have a moment of brilliance? You've seen Zlatan at his age step up. I mean, he's no Zlatan. But what can they get out of Pandev? Can their star players step up is the key for me. I think North Macedonia, I think winning a game will be an achievement for them. But I don't see any reason why they couldn't sneak into the knockouts.
For sure, and I hope they do. I mean, in the end of the day, I really hope they're opening games against Austria. Austria, I really don't see any something that gets me excited about Austria. I think they will have that a tournament that you kind of mentioned. So I expect that to be Austria. I expect North Macedonia to win that game. They've shown it. I mean, upsets happen all the time, and that's why we love football. So they showed it that they can beat Spain. They beat Spain earlier, I believe, this year. So Macedonia has it in them, and it's not about the players. It's about how much are they going to take this opportunity and not worry about the lack of experience or the potentially the nerves that will come with being in a tournament like this. That's one part of it. If they can forget about that and just give everything they can and make that country proud, I think they could do really well. I mean, it doesn't really matter in the end of the day who's
Yeah.
playing. So I really
Well,
hope
I think
they get a win.
I I think what makes sometimes international football, especially these major tournaments, so beautiful is that you see it less so in the Premier League, where the Premier League, the team with the most best players tend to win because they're the better team.
No.
But I find in international tournaments, sometimes you get it more often the case where a team that play together, irrelevant, like you could have all kind of a starting 11 of players you know and you've seen around either Premier League or other big leagues. But if you have a team that play together and have this team spirit, they can beat teams with a stronger kind of. If you look at their 11 versus their, but like a team can play better than the sum of their parts, right? If you take the sum of their parts, Macedonia to other teams, it's not even close. But when you play with that team spirit and that passion, that collectivism, you never know what a team like that can achieve. So I think that's kind of what I'm very excited to see in this group. Okay, so yeah, I think Netherlands will comfortably win the group. I'm excited to see Netherlands because obviously World Cup finalists 2010, and they've kind of gone missing since then. But it made sense because you look at that. That was kind of, all their talented players at the end of their prime. After that, they kind of aged, they fall down. Remember the legends like Iron Robin van Persie, these kind of players. However, nowadays you're getting a very young, exciting squad coming up. And they're slowly kind of hitting their form, reaching their prime. So I think the next kind of like 4 to 8 to 10 years is going to be very exciting for the Netherlands. So I'm excited to see what they can do. Obviously, Memphis Depay, he's in form. He's a very good player. Not world class, but serious good talent. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do for them. So I think Netherlands will comfortably win the group. With the other three, it's tough because, Austria, they have a couple players. For me, again, key question. Alaba, you've got Alaba as your star player. What can the supporting cast do? Sabitzer, Arnautovic, Lazaro. What can they do for Austria? I don't know, man. For me, it's a 50-50 as to whether Ukraine or Austria have this. I'd love to put Macedonia third, but I'm stuck who to put second and fourth because I think as much as you would say Austria could, I think Ukraine could also. It's hard. Yeah. I'm gonna mix up. I'm gonna say Austria second, Macedonia third, Ukraine fourth.
Wow. Okay, that's good. Makes it interesting for reflection after. Definitely gonna be an interesting group. Let's go to Group D. Group D is obviously something that will for all of us be very very important group.
It's coming up.
Was in the tournament, they'd be in this group. Croatia, Czech Republic, England, Scotland.
Right. Let's start with England. We've obviously, me and Dan did a reaction to the England squad. I think, it's strange. Semi-final World Cup, our best World Cup in a long time. People still doubt Southgate. I hear it all the time on TV, on the radio. People still doubt Southgate. So Southgate needs to step up and prove that he is a serious and legit manager. And I think now is his time to shine. I don't want to see any more of the trying this, trying that. That time is done. We don't need any more. He needs to know what he's going to do with the squad. He needs to have a plan A, B, C, quite frankly, plan D. Because the players you have, the flexibility you have there, bringing in Ben White I thought was a good shout because even though he is a centre-back, we kind of lack in the midfield. And he dropped from the 33 he originally named. He dropped 2 midfielders, including Jesse Lingard. So I think bringing in Ben White, who can play a CDM centre mid role, was a very very good shout. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But 3 home games as well. I want to see us do well. I want to see us win the group. But funnily enough, we're actually going to get an easier game if we finish second. But for me, I want to see this team go as far as they can, so I don't really care. Obviously, we finished second in the World Cup, and we got an easier path to the final. Obviously, teams like Colombia, Sweden, etc. For me, either way, whether we finish first or second, we're going to have to, at some point quite soon, whether it's round of 16 or quarters, face those teams in Group F, the dreaded group. So it doesn't really matter where we finish. I just want to see us have a strong tournament. I think anything below the semis is a failure. I do believe that after the World Cup we had, after the players we've got in this squad, a very strong squad. So yeah, that's what I want to see from them. Do you have anything to add on England?
Yeah, just one question to you, obviously, as a fan, right? I mean, what to you? You said anything under the semifinals as a failure. What would happen if you lost in the semifinals? How would you look at how would you look at that
A
tournament?
semi-final loss.
Yeah.
Um, it really depends on the journey, the teams we beat. I think if I'm assuming that between the round of 16 and the quarters, to get to the semis, we're going to have to beat a big team, a team who you would have said are somewhat in your kind of top 5 to win the tournament. And if that is the case, I think I would be happy with the semi-finals. However, if we get somehow, some way, we get a smooth route to the semis and we don't deliver and we don't perform, I will be disappointed. But I think generally speaking, getting to the semi-finals, win or loss, I think I would be happy with that.
Yeah, let's go right to Scotland because I think it's a team that is very special in this tournament. A team that 23 years in the waiting, obviously for a major tournament. That's for such a country with such obviously a football ingrained in the people. Being in a major tournament is huge, and I think after 23 years, it's too long. And the fact that Steve Clark did really something that is so difficult to do with a team. Really, I mean, we can talk about all the quality that they have now, but it wasn't always that way. They always didn't have all these players that you could say would make up a quality team.
It's not a bad side at all. It's not, and this is a group I'm talking about where, again, we'll briefly touch on Czech Republic, but I think you've got one standout weak team where, for me, I think Scotland are a decent side, and I think that England-Scotland game is going to be so interesting because I look at Scotland, I think if they're going to have a chance to go through, obviously you need to pick up 3 points against Czech Republic, but those Croatia, especially that England game, or even the Croatia game, because they're playing at home, obviously. They're playing the games in Glasgow, I believe, and that's your chance there. You're home in the Euros against Croatia. Can you get something there? Because obviously 3 points is not going to be enough to get you through, but you need to pick up a result. You need to pick up some points. I doubt it. You need to pick up some points, at least one more. So,
I guarantee you there'll be teams with 3 points that go through that go through the third place with 3 points, depending on goal difference. But I mean, you're completely right in the fact that I think the game Scotland-England at Wembley will be a complete 50-50. Let's throw everything else out there. It's going to be a massive, game where its emotions will play into this result. I think you can't really prepare. It doesn't really matter what systems, what formation is looking like, who's there, who's healthy. It's going to be a
battle.
So that's going to be great.
Words out my mouth.
But
100%. But I think Croatia's a big game. They're a team that are obviously a good side, but in my eyes, a beatable side. Beatable side. So can Scotland, with that home advantage, with the fans behind them, can they do something? You never know. But I think there's no reason to say, and a lot of England fans won't be happy for me saying this, but I think there's no reason to say why Scotland couldn't go through. For me, my key question, in the middle of the park, can McGinn and McTominay together control the midfield? I think that midfield battle against all the teams in that group are going to be crucial. So I think they're the two key. Obviously, you've got some great fullbacks, as you mentioned. But for me, that key question, can they win those midfield battles? Because you've got two very strong kind of Scottish style, I would say, players.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think if Scotland's going to get through this group, whether it's third or second, they're going to have to pick up points in the first game. Guaranteed. They can't lose that game against Czech Republic. I think they probably have to win that game. They have to win that in a way in terms of, are they going to beat England? They could beat England. I mean, just the way, that's what I mean. It doesn't really matter. Like, if they were to go and beat England and snatch a victory there, that's something that obviously will be a little bit of a crazy storyline.
But for me, it's all on that first game. You're at home. You're against a team where you're probably the favourites. Yeah. You've got to go and win that game, and draw is unacceptable because then you've got that momentum. Then you've got that momentum, and suddenly you're thinking, could we do something here? That game is crucial.
Yeah, I think going into England with 3 points already is going to be a much better Scotland than a Scotland with 1 point that kind of need to get a result somehow, or they're going to leave it to the last. They should not leave it to the last against Croatia. I really, definitely don't see a good fate if that's the case. So we'll see. I mean, in the end of the day, I think people are, there's a lot of expectations. At the end of the day, like Finland, not comparing the two like for like, but you haven't been to a major tournament in 23 years. You get 2 home games, which is going to be amazing for Glasgow, for the country. So they've already succeeded. They've already succeeded, and now they got to go out there with that swagger they have and see what they can do. Swing for the fences.
See, that's where my opinion that's where my opinion differs, because you're making the house money argument. That's what you're saying. You're saying they're playing with house money. I'm saying all that. I'm saying, great, you've got here, bravo, bravo, eat your Scotch egg and haggis. But seriously, to me, like you're not getting other Euros where the group stage you've got 2 out of 3 games at home and the other games in England around the corner, a big derby. Take advantage of that. Make a push to get through. I think that's how they should be looking at it. Not like, oh well, as long as we beat Czech Republic and we get the 3 points, I'll be happy. I disagree. I think Scotland should be going for it. I think the fans should demand a big tournament. I disagree with you there, to be honest.
I mean, I'm sure they do. There's the likelihood of the country and the fan base. They're one of the best fan bases in the world. They're obviously looking like they want to go out. They want to beat England. They want to beat Czech Republic. They want to beat Croatia even. But in the end of the day, I think if this team does pull out a win in this group stage, the fans will be very, very happy. Getting to a major tournament. You're right. The opportunity really, the players that are in form for them, everything else, everything kind of, the fact that they're playing at home, it all works out.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I think too much pressure won't be a great thing for this side. So I'm going to put on my prediction right now. Obviously, we didn't talk too much about the Czech Republic. However, maybe that's for a reason. I honestly believe that Croatia will top this group. England will finish second. Scotland in third place. And that will also get through. And the Czech Republic will be the team in fourth place.
Okay, yeah. So for me, I think 3 home games, semi-final in the World Cup. I think England will win the group. Croatia are a team that is mostly aging. Just a couple points on Croatia there, because I think England will win the group. I think Croatia will come second. They question marks on their away form. I'll give some interesting facts for you here. 1 away win in the qualifiers, which included a draw to none other than Azerbaijan, the only team to drop points. And two of they're one of the only countries where they've got 2 away games, if you will, 1 in Scotland, 1 in England, and that questionable away form. Could you maybe see an upset where Scotland would be second? I'm not going to predict it, but I'm just saying it's definitely something to think about. Question marks in their defence. I don't think they have a strong defence. They've got the youngster Gvardio, who's now at Leipzig. Leeds were kind of sniffing around from last summer. For me, the key questions is, Modric, how much can they get out of him at the age of 35? And there's a big drop-off between their kind of 4 or 5 big stars and the rest of their team. So will those big players step up? Kovacic, Brozovic, Perisic, Rebic. Will these players step up? That's the key for them. They're a team that, like a team like England, you could see them getting knocked out as soon as they go through. You could see them getting to the semis or the finals. You really don't know with this group. It's going to be interesting. As I said, Croatia second, Scotland third, Czech Republic fourth. For Czech Republic, just to mention Kufau and Souček, who West Ham both brought in from Slavia Prague. They'll know these teams, these players quite well, especially England, Scotland. Can they leverage that at all? Could they use the height, get a goal from set pieces? Maybe, but I don't see them making too much noise. My only question for this group is, can Scotland potentially come second? That's how I see it. I think England will take the group.
I mean, a little bit of a different perspective there. Again, just in terms of Croatia, a team that just never stops. Will give anything for the shirt. Every single one of those players will give everything for the national team, more than they could ever think for their club. So that's one thing that will always play in their advantage. You saw at the World Cup. Yeah,
I think the smaller the country, the more pride and passion there is in
depends, but
I think
Croatia for sure.
I just want to take this moment to apologise to viewers. You'll be noticing I thought it was smart to sit outside in this gorgeous summer weather. It's very quickly got dark, so those who enjoy seeing my beautiful face, I'm about to go and fix that.
Right, Group E.
Hey.
Let's breeze through this one. Spain, obviously the favourites in this group. I think again another group where they should come out with 7 maybe, but probably 9 points realistically. My key question for them: Moreno, big season, 30 goals for Villarreal, got them into Europa. Can he perform at the majors? We'll have to see. But again, it's that question. With a slightly weaker group, you would argue, and potential to win all the games, are you going to be more or less prepared for the knockouts? It's the key question for me. Sweden, can they make any noise without Ibrahimovic? Obviously out. I don't think so. Poland, shout out Mateusz Klich, Leeds player. Can the defense do enough? Again, I think it's that matter of can they get clean sheets with a striker, like a world-class striker like Robin Lewandowski up front? That will be their key to getting out of the group. Slovakia, a couple decent players, but I think a win for Slovakia will be a successful outing. Even just a couple draws, getting some points.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on a lot there. I mean, when we look at a group like this, Spain, obviously, the latest news that I've heard of, they're a great team, good team. They have so much, they're one of the best teams in the world, even though obviously maybe they're not in their best moment. However, I think we got to look at it a little bit more objectively in terms of where we are right now. I believe one of their players or maybe some of their team has been tested positive for corona, leaving. I think they're what that means is, I mean, this is something we haven't talked about till now, which I like because the fact that everyone talks about it. But I brought it up here, and the fact that it did affect Spain, as it will many other countries in this tournament, and this really could screw a lot of people up in terms of who are they going to get, making sure that one person's or 2 people are tested positive. Well, who are they in contact with? All those people have to quarantine until these negative tests are done. Really could screw up the whole who's available and how good of a team they can bring out. Basically, yep. Spain.
Especially the teams with 4 to 5, team like Croatia, 4 to 5 good players, but without that.
For sure. I mean, yeah. Okay. Obviously, in terms of what it gives to your quality and the mentioning of but also think about how that would disturb maybe the mentality of the team, the atmosphere of the team, having players. This is why they play. They play to represent their country. They play to be in these big tournaments. Imagine having to.
No doubt.
Right. So, I mean, Spain, I agree. They're the best team in this group. This group is relatively, has some really good quality. There's no teams that, you think don't deserve to be there. Sweden's a great footballing side. Slovakia is a good side, quality side. Unfortunately, I think they'll just be 4th best in this group because Poland is as well a team that should get through this, whether it's 3rd or 2nd. Personally, I'll just say it right away. I think Spain's going to top the group. Sweden will follow. Poland should open the tournament out with the win against.
You fancy Sweden over Poland?
I do. I think. I'm
surprised at you, bro. I was thinking this is a group where we won't argue at all, but seriously?
But here's the thing. You're saying that Zlatan Ibrahimovic is the most important player for Sweden. Absolutely not. He is not. They're not dependent on him at all. They've played he's just coming back for the tournament, I'm pretty sure. He's not a part of this team. He's not a part of the success, the results. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a guy that really, I love him as a player. I think he's a great player. He has a crazy mentality.
Yeah, but there's difference between getting in from the qualifiers and competing in the actual tournament.
Well, they've beaten teams.
And Zlatan's that difference.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people argue that he actually disturbs the continuity of the team, and he disturbs the. No, they do. It's a fact. It's a fact. So. I think he's a great player. He's also very old, and I mean watching him, was he so super important player for AC Milan? No. I mean they show that they're competitive in the Nations League, where this is not qualifications. In the Nations League, they're in Group A. They're a team that really, although they didn't obviously, beat, they played France, they played Croatia, they managed to beat Croatia. They're a good team. I mean, looking at Poland, who is also a respectable team. I mean that's why this group doesn't really have a team that you'd say is below par, like potentially a Macedonia or potentially Finland. That's not the case, but I do believe that all 3 of these teams, Spain, Sweden, Poland, will get through, and Slovakia will unfortunately miss out. That's my thoughts.
Awesome. Okay, so Final group, and this is the spicy one. We've kind of touched on it here and there. The group of death, as they call it. So yeah, we've got Group F: France, Germany, and Portugal in the same group. All three teams who some would argue could win it all. And then you've got Hungary. So yeah, for me, I let's just touch on Hungary quickly. I mean, they've got obviously Leipzig goalkeeper Gulácsi in goal. Could he have a big tournament? Maybe keep a clean sheet or two. It's tough. I mean, that is not like even a half decent side, maybe like your Scotland or something. I mean, any team like that in this group is just like absolutely hopeless. Yeah, but then this is an example of a group where third place is going to very comfortably see themselves into, in my opinion, into the round of 16, because you're going to have a team at the bottom with 0 points, and that's obviously more points available for the other three teams. So, yeah, let's go for it. Germany. Interesting. I don't want to see the manager. I don't want to see him smelling his hands when he puts his hands in weird places and sniffs them. So disgusting. So as great of a manager as he is, national manager, just that stuff puts me off. When you've got obviously Leno as your backup goalkeeper, you're doing something right as a country. But yeah, a strong side, and I think interestingly, you've got a nice mixture there of young and old players. I think that's something underrated about Germany. Nice blend there, like in Italy. Question mark up front though. Very few strikers. Timo Werner's your only real out and out striker of good quality, in my opinion, of talent. So are they going to be able to have enough up top? Question mark, maybe. We will see. And we'll see what Werner can do, because he had an okay season for Chelsea. Let's not say it was terrible, but obviously we saw him for Germany and Chelsea miss some very questionable chances. So yeah, I mean, for me, my key question here for Germany is how much can we get out of the older players, and to what degree will the younger players step up? It's something that sounds very kind of generic and broad, but at the same time, with that kind of combination, that blend, you need to lean on that experience, and will the older players bring that? And you need those young players to kind of not be shy in the moment, step up when the cameras are on you, as they say. Can they do that? We will see, especially in a tough group.
Well, this is going to be a massive test for them. It's going to be a huge test, and I think you need, some, as you mentioned, kind of touching on the younger players. This is going to be a great test. I mean, is now the time where is this the tournament where they really expect this team to go ahead and have success? No, I think the whole federation knows that. Obviously, this is Lowe's last crack. Seeing out the program. For me, they'll get through the group just based on the fact that they're allowing 3 teams to get through the group, so they're a little bit lucky there. But I see them being that third place team.
Germany,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but I think it's a great opportunity.
See, that's interesting. Go on. Did you want to add to that? Because otherwise, I'm going to kind of counter you there.
So basically, just in terms of all 3 teams in this group, France, Germany, and Portugal, I think this is a good group to be in terms of really challenging yourself from the get-go. And really, there's not too much pressure. I think all 3 of them will win their games against Hungary. And whoever doesn't, if there is a team that doesn't do that, they'll pay the price.
Oh, of course. But I don't see that as something that's going to happen. There's a lot of questions about who will win when the teams go head-to-head. I think we could be seeing a preview of a semis or even a final in this group. However, you say Germany for third. I think Portugal for third. Not only that, again, on TikTok, one of the questions we were asked is, who do you see as a kind of your flop this season, this tournament? Sorry. For me, Portugal. Whilst they have a big increase in quality that we've seen in the last kind of 10 years, we've seen it be kind of Ronaldo carrying a team. Now he's got a very strong squad around him, and I find that sometimes when you have too many good players, it can kind of come against you. Like, they talk about Belgium's golden age, but for me, I'm yet to see Belgium really, prove that. And with Portugal, whilst they have a really good team, I just don't know if I see enough there. The question is, how much urgency will Ronaldo play with, given that this might be one of his last major tournaments? With Bruno Fernandes in the squad, how many penalties will they get? I'm joking. But no, they're a team with good balance across the team. And whilst I'm giving them a lot of credit, there's just something about this team. As I said, in an international tournament like this, it sometimes comes down to more than how good are the players on the pitch. You know, I think that question of how good is the team as a whole, as playing as a unit, I think that comes into the equation more. The other thing I want to take into consideration is now that, for me, I see them coming third in the group. I do think, whilst you could argue that finishing first gives you either momentum, I do think finishing third in this group will kind of slow down your momentum and kind of, get into your head a bit when you come to that round of 16. Even though third place in this group is still not bad given the teams there, I do think that you're going to kind of lose any momentum you have going into the knockout stages.
Yeah. I really
so
don't know where
Portugal.
you look at Portugal in terms of the way they've been playing of late, the Nations League, the recent cycle in March in the qualifying, the way they play football. I mean, they especially in the Nations League as well. They beat Croatia both times. They beat Sweden both times, and they were competitive both games against France. Getting a draw and just missing out in one game. And you compare that to a team like Germany, where they got embarrassed by Spain. They got embarrassed by Macedonia. They're not the same team, and they're building. They're a rebuild. I understand that, but I think that's where obviously we see a little bit difference. I think we all also agree that Hungary will top the group up. Of course, jokes aside, France will be top of the group. My stance that Portugal will get through in second place. Germany will just get through in third.
I mean, it's a good argument, but for me, I do view major tournaments as something where you have to you take form into consideration, but at the same time you kind of put it to the side, because there's a difference between like the two major tournaments every 2 years and everything else, be it friendlies, qualifiers for this so Nations League now. That's just how I view it, but people argue differently. For me, obviously the favourites, France, they, and I said it again in a TikTok, like they're just so stacked, like throughout the pitch, everywhere. They are just such a stacked team that I think it even goes beyond that question of, yes, you've got really good players, but can they play together? They're just a team that's so good, so stacked. It's their tournament to lose. And in my eyes, the only people that could stop France from winning the tournament is themselves. That is how I see it. I have Mbappe for my golden boot. I think he's not afraid of the kind of the spotlight, as they say. Amazing World Cup. He's had an amazing season, even though they would have liked to go further in Champions League. But he has that kind of killer instinct that you need as a striker, like your Thierry Henry, to give you a French equivalent. But be interesting. But I think this is France's tournament to lose. And even in that group, that scary group, I think they can still sail through.
Yeah, and I mean, they'll only reap the benefits of playing competitive games. They got depth, they got everything. So these competitive...
Exactly. That's such a good point. We've made that argument of like, not only could they come first with that momentum, but the momentum of coming first against teams like Germany and Portugal, who are of that quality level that you're going to face in the round of 16, perhaps even the quarters and semis, I think is a really good point as well to make. But I think that just about wraps it up.
Yeah, one point I just wanted to make, to everyone before we head out, is that congratulations to everyone, because everyone's been waiting so long for another major tournament. We'll never have to wait this long again. This is 3 years since the previous World Cup. This is a great wait for a major tournament, and hopefully everyone enjoys it.
Definitely. So for anyone that was kind of hoping to brush up on their Euro knowledge, get ready. I hope this episode really helped. That was kind of the goal of this episode, to get you up to date and get you excited. For me, kind of, obviously I didn't have all this information at the top of my head. This was done through kind of research. So hopefully I kind of saved you that trouble. But for me, I got more excited once I kind of looked into it. So I hope listening to this has got you a little bit more excited for the Euros. But yeah, this has been everything kind of today from TFF. We're coming out with episodes thick and fast. Very excited to announce that our second edition of the Female Footy Forum will be dropping Sunday with a very, very special guest, a familiar face, some of you will say, live from her national team training camp, which is awesome. But yeah, apart from that, enjoy the first weekend of the Euros. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms, on audio platforms as well, because we will keep you up to date throughout the Euros and, of course, beyond. Some really exciting guests in the works for this summer. You do not want to miss it. So make sure you become part of the most inclusive football community in the entire world.
Ciao.
Take care.